Chapter 1: The Home of Original Horror Stories. The rain began just after sunset, falling softly at first before turning into a relentless storm that swallowed the quiet town of Ravens Hollow. Lightning flashed across the sky, revealing an old Victorian mansion standing alone on a hill above the forest. The locals called it Ashcroft Manor, but few dared to speak its name after dark. For decades, people had claimed the mansion was the birthplace of countless terrifying legends. Every ghost story, every haunted tale, and every unexplained disappearance seemed to begin within its decaying walls. They called it the home of original horror stories because those who entered rarely returned, and those who did could never explain what they had seen. Nathan Brooks, a 28-year-old horror writer suffering from writer's block, had spent years searching for the perfect story. His readers loved his books, but he believed they lacked genuine fear. When an elderly librarian handed him a faded journal describing Ashcroft Manor, she warned him never to cross its gates after sunset. According to the journal, the mansion did not simply contain horror stories, it created them. Nathan dismissed the warning as another local myth. He packed his notebook, camera, voice recorder, and flashlight before driving toward the isolated hill, just as darkness covered the countryside. The mansion looked even larger than the photographs. Ivy covered its cracked stone walls, broken windows reflected the flashes of lightning, and the rusted iron gate slowly creaked open before Nathan even touched it. Cold air wrapped around him as he stepped onto the overgrown path. Every instinct told him to turn back, yet curiosity pulled him forward. He had spent years inventing monsters, but tonight he hoped to find the truth behind the greatest horror story ever told. Inside the mansion, silence ruled every room. Thick dust covered antique furniture, torn curtains hung from broken windows, and faded family portraits watched him from the walls. Nathan clicked on his recorder. "Entry 1, he whispered. "Ashcroft Manor. If the legends are true, this could become the greatest horror story ever written." His voice echoed unnaturally through the hallway before disappearing into complete silence. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut behind him. Nathan rushed back, grabbing the heavy handle with both hands. It refused to move. The wooden door felt as though it had become part of the wall itself. Before panic could set in, an old grandfather clock somewhere, deep inside the mansion, chimed once. The sound echoed, endlessly. Then came another sound. Footsteps, not one pair. Several, slowly, walking across the floor above him. Nathan looked toward the grand staircase. His flashlight revealed muddy footprints leading upward. They looked fresh, as if someone had climbed the stairs only moments earlier. Believing another explorer might be inside, he followed them. The second floor stretched into a long corridor lined with dozens of doors. Every door had a brass nameplate. The Forgotten. Child. The Last Train. The Whispering. Forest. The Man Without a Face. Room of Shadows. Nathan frowned. Each room seemed to be named after a horror story. "This has to be someone's collection," he whispered. He reached for the first doorknob. The moment he touched it, voices filled the hallway. Not loud, barely audible, as though hundreds of people were reading stories at the same time. Children laughed, women cried, men screamed, every sound blended together until the hallway itself seemed alive. Nathan stepped into the room. It resembled a small library illuminated by dozens of candles that burned without melting. Thousands of handwritten books filled towering shelves from floor to ceiling. None carried an author's name, only titles. He removed one carefully. Its cover read, "The Writer Who Never Escaped." His heart skipped. Opening the book, he expected to find an old horror novel. Instead, he found today's date. The first page contained only one sentence. Nathan Brooks entered Ashcroft Manor searching for inspiration. His hands trembled. He turned another page. The next paragraph described everything he had done since arriving, every step, every word, even the recording he had made minutes earlier. Someone had written his life before it happened. The pages continued. Nathan flipped forward, desperately. Near the end of the book, he found a final chapter. The last sentence read, he looked behind him one final time. Nothing followed. The remaining pages were blank. Slowly, Nathan turned around. No one stood there. Relieved, he laughed nervously. Then another book fell from the shelf by itself. Its pages opened automatically. Across the paper, fresh black ink slowly appeared. He smiled because he believed he was alone. Nathan felt icy fear spread through his body. The whispering voices returned. This time they spoke. Together, keep reading. Books began falling from every shelf. Thousands crashed onto the floor. Simultaneously, pages flipped wildly without wind. The words written inside each book floated into the air as glowing black letters, circling the room like living shadows. Nathan ran toward the door, but it slammed shut before he reached it. The walls trembled. Every bookshelf slowly turned to face him. Then the book started whispering his name. Nathan, Nathan, Nathan. One enormous, leather-bound volume slowly slid from the highest shelf, landed with a thunderous crash. Dust exploded into the air. The title glowed in silver. Letters, the home of original horror. Stories the book opened by itself. Its pages were completely blank, until one sentence slowly appeared. Every horror story begins with someone opening the first page. Before Nathan could react, invisible hands pulled him toward the giant book. Its blank pages transformed into a swirling abyss of darkness. The room vanished. The candles went out. The whispers became deafening screams, and just before everything disappeared into blackness, Nathan heard a calm voice whisper beside his ear. Welcome, author. You've come to write the next story. Chapter 2. The library that writes the dead Nathan's body crashed onto a cold marble floor as the swirling darkness released him. His flashlight rolled across the room before stopping against an enormous wooden desk covered with hundreds of burning candles. The air smelled of old paper, melted wax, and damp stone. For several moments he couldn't breathe. The whispering voices that had filled the haunted library were gone, replaced by a silence so deep that even his heartbeat sounded unnaturally loud. Slowly, Nathan stood and looked around. The room was unlike anything he had ever imagined. It was a library far larger than the mansion itself. Endless shelves stretched upward into darkness, disappearing beyond what his eyes could see. Ancient. Ladders moved across the towering bookcases without anyone touching them. Thousands of leather-bound books floated gently through the air, rearranging themselves as invisible hands carried them from shelf to shelf. Every few seconds, another book appeared from nowhere, its blank pages filling with fresh black ink before sliding neatly into place. Nathan picked up his flashlight. "This isn't possible," he whispered. A calm voice echoed across the chamber. "Nothing here is impossible." Nathan spun around. An elderly man stood beside the enormous desk. He wore a long black coat covered in silver symbols, and his snow-white hair rested neatly upon his shoulders. Round spectacles hid pale eyes that seemed far older than time itself. Unlike the ghosts Nathan expected, the old man looked completely human. "You've arrived sooner than expected," he said politely. Nathan stepped backward. "Who are you?" The stranger smiled faintly. "I am the librarian." "You've crossed into the archive." Nathan looked around again. "The archive? The place where every original horror story is born." The librarian slowly walked between the endless shelves. Every nightmare ever imagined, every ghost, every haunted house, every cursed object, they all began here. Nathan laughed nervously. "You're saying every horror story in history came from this place?" The librarian stopped. "No, they came from people. We merely wrote them down." Nathan frowned. "Who's we?" The old man's smile disappeared. "The authors." Before Nathan could ask another question, the lights dimmed. Every floating book suddenly froze in midair. The silence returned. Then, one book fell, another, then hundreds. Leather-bound volumes crashed onto the marble floor all around them. The librarian looked toward the ceiling. "They've noticed you." "Who?" Before he could answer, every candle went out. Darkness swallowed the library. Nathan's flashlight became the only source of light. Something moved beyond the shelves. Tall shadows, dozens of them. Their footsteps echoed slowly through the endless aisles. Tap, tap, tap. The librarian spoke quietly. "Do not let them see fear." Nathan aimed the flashlight toward the approaching figures. They were people, or at least they had once been. Each wore old-fashioned clothing covered in dust. Their skin looked pale as paper, instead of eyes. Every face had empty pages where their eyes should have been. Words slowly appeared across those blank faces. Who will write him? The sentence faded. Another replaced it. He doesn't belong here. The creatures took another step. Nathan instinctively raised his camera. Flash, brilliant white light filled the library. The faceless beings screamed. Their bodies dissolved into flying sheets of paper that scattered throughout the room. The librarian nodded approvingly. The camera of truth. So it finally chose another author. Nathan stared at the camera in disbelief. You know about this? I gave it to someone long before you were born. Nathan looked confused. Who? The librarian sighed. Your father. Nathan froze. My father died 20 years ago. Yes. Here. The room suddenly felt colder. My father came here. He almost destroyed the archive. The librarian walked toward an enormous circular window overlooking endless darkness. He discovered something hidden beneath the library. What? The first story? Nathan slowly approached him. What's that? The old man pointed downward. Far below the library stretched an impossible abyss. At its center rested an enormous book chained to a black stone altar. It was larger than a house. Its cover appeared to breathe. Dark smoke escaped from between its pages. The first story, the librarian whispered. The book that dreamed every nightmare into existence. Nathan stared speechlessly. It isn't a book. No, it's alive. Suddenly, one of the giant chains snapped. The sound echoed through the archive like thunder. The entire library shook violently. Books crashed from the shelves, ladders collapsed. The floating candles reignited with black flames. The librarian's face turned pale. It's waking. The enormous book slowly opened by itself. Its pages turned without wind. A deep voice echoed from the abyss. Author. Nathan felt unbearable pressure inside his mind. Memories that weren't his own flooded his thoughts. Haunted castles, forgotten cemeteries, burning villages, shadow monsters. Thousands of horror stories being written across centuries. Every nightmare originated from the living book. The giant pages continued turning, then stopped. Fresh ink slowly appeared. Only one sentence. Nathan Brooks has finally returned. His blood ran cold. Returned? The librarian closed his eyes. You've been here before. Nathan shook his head violently. No, I've never seen this place. You don't remember? The old man looked at him sadly. You were only 6 years old. The memories struck like lightning. A little boy, a frightened father, a burning library, a giant living book, a door covered in silver symbols. Someone screaming. Then, darkness. Nathan staggered backward. I remember. Before he could finish speaking, the final chain holding the living book shattered. The entire archive trembled. The first story opened completely. From its pages, a colossal shadow hand slowly emerged. Its fingers were made of swirling ink. Its claws dripped with black words instead of blood. The librarian whispered only 4 words. It's too late now. Then the creature smiled. Chapter 3. The first story. Awakens. The colossal shadow hand rose from the pages of the living book, its fingers stretching higher than the tallest bookshelves in the archive. Black ink dripped from its claws, but when the drops struck the marble floor, they transformed into frightened human faces that screamed before dissolving into smoke. Nathan stood frozen, unable to look away. The ancient book was no longer lying quietly upon its stone altar. It pulsed like a living heart, every page turning by itself while thousands of whispered voices escaped into the endless library. The librarian stepped in front of Nathan. Do not speak to it, he warned. It learns every voice it hears. Nathan tightened his grip on the camera of truth. What is it? The old man never looked away from the monster. It is the first story. the very first nightmare ever imagined. It has been dreaming for thousands of years. Another violent tremor shook the archive. Hundreds of books flew from the shelves, circling the enormous chamber like frightened birds. Each book burst open, releasing glowing letters that floated through the air before joining the black storm surrounding the living book. Then the creature spoke. Not with a mouth, every page spoke at once. Another author. The voice echoed through Nathan's mind instead of his ears. "You have returned." Nathan's heart pounded. "I've never been here." The pages fluttered violently. "You always forget." Suddenly, the floor beneath Nathan disappeared. He fell into darkness. Instead of striking the ground, he landed inside a memory. He was standing in the archive 22 years earlier. Everything looked brighter. The shelves were untouched. The candles burned with warm golden flames instead of eerie blue light. A little boy stood beside the librarian, Nathan, only 6 years old. His father, Daniel Brooks, stood nearby holding the very same camera of truth. Nathan watched in disbelief as his younger self wandered toward the enormous living book. "Don't touch it," Daniel shouted, but it was too late. The child placed his tiny hand upon the ancient cover. The first story opened. Darkness exploded across the archive. Shadow creatures poured from its pages. The librarian desperately raised glowing silver chains that wrapped around the monster, forcing it back toward the altar. Daniel grabbed young Nathan and ran. Before escaping, he looked back. "I'll return," he promised. The memory shattered. Nathan found himself back inside the present-day archive. His knees buckled. It wasn't a dream. The librarian sighed. "No, your father sealed the first story, but he never finished the ritual." Nathan looked toward the altar. The giant book was now standing upright, its pages stretched open like enormous wings. Words crawled across every page, not ordinary words. Names. Thousands of names. Nathan noticed one glowing brighter than the rest. Daniel Brooks. The name slowly disappeared. Another appeared beneath it. Nathan Brooks. The ink began spreading across the page. The librarian's expression darkened. "It has chosen you." "What does that mean?" "You are becoming its next author." Nathan stepped backward. "I don't understand." The librarian pointed toward the floating book circling the chamber. "Every horror writer who disappears, they don't die. They become part of the first story." Nathan suddenly noticed familiar names floating across the endless shelves. Edgar, Mary, Howard, Shirley, dozens of legendary horror writers. Their books remained, but their authors had vanished. "They all came here," Nathan whispered. "They all tried to control it, and failed." Without warning, every candle went out. Absolute darkness filled the archive. Only the glowing pages of the first story illuminated the chamber. Then countless glowing eyes opened between the bookshelves. 1, 10, 100, thousands. The shadows had returned, but these were different. Each shadow carried an unfinished manuscript. Their faces constantly changed into people Nathan had known throughout his life. Friends, teachers, neighbors, his parents. Finally, Lily, his younger sister. Nathan's breath caught. "Lily?" She smiled sadly. "Don't believe the book." The first story laughed. Its pages turned faster. Every story requires sacrifice. The shadow version of Lily slowly melted into black ink. Nathan raised the camera of truth. The flash burst across the chamber like lightning. For a moment, every illusion vanished. The endless library transformed. The shelves became prison bars. The floating books became trapped souls. The glowing manuscripts became human memories bound in leather. Nathan stared in horror. The archive was never a library. It was a prison for stories that should never have been written. The first story roared. The illusion returned instantly. The camera had revealed the truth, but only for a second. The librarian grabbed Nathan's shoulder. "Now you understand. The archive isn't protecting humanity from monsters. It's protecting humanity from imagination without limits." A deafening crack echoed across the chamber. The final silver chain wrapped around the first story snapped. The giant book floated into the air, black lightning spread through the ceiling. The walls split apart. Beyond the collapsing archive lay not the night sky, but an endless universe made entirely of floating books and living nightmares. The first story slowly closed its pages. Its cover now bore a single title, written in glowing silver letters. The home of original horror stories. Nathan looked at it in disbelief. "That's the title of my new novel." The librarian nodded sadly. It was. The book opened one final time. The first page now contained only one sentence. "The author has finally come home." The room fell silent. Then every book in the archive whispered together. Chapter 4 begins. Chapter 4. The Ink King. The words, "Chapter 4 begins," echoed through the archive long after every whisper had faded. Nathan stood motionless, his fingers trembling around the camera of truth as the infinite library continued to collapse around him. Towering bookshelves cracked apart, sending millions of ancient books into the endless void beyond the broken walls. Every page fluttered like frightened birds before dissolving into streams of black ink that flowed toward the gigantic living book suspended above the altar. Then the impossible happened. The first story closed itself. Silence consumed the archive. For one terrifying moment, nothing moved. A single drop of black ink fell from the enormous book onto the marble floor. The drop expanded into a dark pool. The pool began breathing. Nathan instinctively stepped backward. The black liquid slowly rose into the shape of a man. First came the legs, then the arms, then a long coat woven from moving pages. Finally, a pale face appeared. Its skin looked as white as blank paper. Its eyes were made of flowing black ink. Across its forehead, glowing silver words slowly formed. "The Ink King." The librarian lowered his head. "He has awakened." The Ink King smiled. Every smile line on his face resembled written sentences. "So," his voice sounded like thousands of pages turning at once, "the final author has returned." Nathan forced himself to speak. "Who are you?" The Ink King bowed politely. "I am every story that was never supposed to exist. I am every nightmare humanity imagined. I am every ending that writers feared to write." He stretched out one hand. The floating books immediately circled him like loyal servants. "Without me, there would be no horror." Nathan raised the camera of truth. "You've trapped innocent people." The Ink King laughed softly. "I never trapped anyone. They volunteered." He pointed toward the endless shelves. Every book suddenly opened. Nathan watched in horror as ghostly figures stepped out from between the pages. Novelists, poets, journalists, storytellers. Thousands of writers from different centuries stood silently throughout the archive. Each held a pen made from black bone. Their eyes were completely empty. They wanted immortality, the Ink King whispered. I simply granted it. The writers began writing across invisible pages in the air. Every sentence they finished instantly became reality. A haunted house appeared, a cursed village, a ghost train, a monster beneath the ocean. Nathan realized the horrifying truth. Every horror story ever imagined was still being written. The archive wasn't preserving stories, it was creating them. The librarian stepped forward. You promised balance. The Ink King's smile disappeared, and you promised obedience. Without warning, black chains erupted from the floor. They wrapped around the librarian's arms and legs, lifting him into the air. Nathan rushed forward. The Ink King merely glanced at him. Invisible force slammed Nathan against a towering bookshelf. His camera fell to the floor. The Ink King picked it up. The camera of truth. He examined it carefully, the only object capable of exposing my lies. With one squeeze of his hand, dark cracks spread across the antique camera. Nathan shouted, "No!" The Ink King smiled again. But truth. He handed the camera back. Cannot be destroyed. The cracks slowly healed. Nathan caught it in disbelief. Why? Because every story requires both truth and fiction. The giant living book suddenly opened once more. This time, It revealed a staircase descending beneath the altar. A cold wind rushed upward, carrying distant screams. The Ink King pointed downward. Beneath the archive lies the final chapter, the place where every ending is written. Nathan looked into the darkness. What happens there? The Ink King's eyes glowed brighter. Only one author leaves alive. The floor shook violently. Another deafening bell echoed through the endless library. The fourth bell. The shelves collapsed one after another. Millions of books burst into flames. Not ordinary fire, blue fire. The librarian struggled against the chains. Nathan, you must reach the final chapter before he does. The Ink King simply smiled. It doesn't matter. He has already begun writing. Nathan looked down. Fresh black ink covered his hands. Words slowly appeared across his skin. Chapter 5. He desperately tried wiping them away. The ink only spread further. The camera of truth flashed by itself. For a split second, Nathan saw his reflection in the polished marble floor. His eyes had become black ink. The vision vanished. The Ink King quietly whispered, "The longer you remain here, the more fictional you become." Nathan understood at last. The archive wasn't trying to kill him, it was rewriting him. If he failed to escape before the final chapter was complete, he would become another character trapped forever inside the world's oldest horror story. With the camera of truth clutched tightly in his hands, Nathan ran toward the staircase beneath the living book. Behind him, the Ink King did not follow. He simply opened a blank notebook, dipped his pen into liquid darkness, and began writing Nathan's fate. Chapter 5. The final chapter. Nathan raced down the endless staircase beneath the archive, his footsteps echoing through a darkness that felt older than time itself. The camera of truth hung tightly around his neck, its cracked lens glowing with a faint silver light that illuminated the ancient stone steps. Above him, the archive continued to collapse as the Ink King calmly wrote inside his black notebook. Every word he penned caused another part of reality to disappear. Shelves crumbled into dust. Thousands of imprisoned stories escaped into the void, and the screams of forgotten authors echoed through the endless abyss. The staircase finally ended before an enormous pair of iron doors engraved with thousands of names. Some belonged to famous horror writers, while others had long been forgotten by history. At the center of the doors, carved in glowing silver letters, was a single sentence: "Every story ends where truth begins." Nathan pushed against the doors with all his strength. They opened slowly. Beyond them lay the most impossible place he had ever seen. The room was circular, larger than a cathedral, with walls made entirely of floating pages instead of stone. Millions of glowing manuscripts drifted through the air like snowflakes, each telling a different story. Above them, the ceiling resembled a living night sky filled with constellations shaped like open books. In the center of the chamber stood a massive wooden desk carved from black oak. Upon it rested a single blank manuscript. Beside the manuscript lay an ancient silver fountain pen. Nathan stepped closer. The pen moved by itself. Fresh black ink appeared across the blank page. The author has arrived to write the ending. A slow clap echoed behind him. Nathan turned. The Ink King stood at the entrance, untouched by the collapsing archive. His coat of living pages fluttered in an invisible wind, while countless words floated around him like black butterflies. "You found the final chapter," he said with a satisfied smile. "Congratulations." Nathan glared at him. "This ends today." The Ink King laughed softly. "Every author says that." He slowly walked toward the desk. "You still don't understand. I don't create horror. I preserve it." Nathan shook his head. "You trap innocent souls. I preserve their stories forever." The Ink King gently touched one of the floating manuscripts. Immediately, it transformed into a frightened little girl crying beneath a staircase. Another became a haunted lighthouse. Another became a cursed mirror. "They were forgotten by the world," he whispered. "I made them immortal." Nathan looked around the chamber. Thousands of forgotten stories floated peacefully through the air. For the first time, he realized the Ink King was not entirely evil. He feared being forgotten, just like every story ever written. The camera of truth suddenly flashed by itself. The illusion shattered. Nathan saw the real chamber. The floating manuscripts were not stories, they were people. Every page contained someone's memories, their fears, their hopes, their lives. The Ink King noticed Nathan's expression. "So, you've seen the truth." Nathan looked directly into his eyes. "You've stolen every memory." The Ink King's smile faded. "I saved them." Before another word could be spoken, the chamber trembled violently. A deep roar echoed from beneath the floor. The first story was breaking free once again. Black cracks spread across the walls. The floating manuscripts began burning. The silver fountain pen rolled off the desk. Nathan caught it instinctively, the moment his fingers touched it. Memories flooded his mind. He saw every horror story ever written, every ghost, every monster, every nightmare, but hidden among them. He also saw every act of courage, every sacrifice, every hope, every light that had defeated darkness. The pen was never meant to write fear. It was meant to write truth. The Ink King lunged forward. "Give it back!" Nathan ran toward the blank manuscript. The chamber collapsed around him. Walls shattered. The ceiling split apart. The first story emerged from beneath the floor as an enormous living book surrounded by rivers of black ink. Its pages screamed with thousands of trapped voices. The Ink King knelt before it. "My creator." The living book ignored him. Its glowing pages turned toward Nathan. A single sentence appeared. "Choose the ending." Nathan looked at the silver pen, then at the camera of truth. Finally, he began writing. Not with fear, not with revenge, but with hope. The silver ink spread across the manuscript. Every story deserves an ending, but no nightmare should live forever. The moment the final word appeared, brilliant golden light erupted from the page. The camera of truth released one final blinding flash. The first story screamed. Its pages turned white. The rivers of black ink transformed into streams of glowing light. Every imprisoned memory escaped into the sky like thousands of shining stars. The floating manuscripts disappeared one by one. The Ink King staggered backward. His coat of living pages dissolved into ash. He looked at Nathan with tears in his eyes. "I only wanted them to be remembered." Nathan stepped closer. "They will be, but not as prisoners." The Ink King smiled sadly. For the first time, his ink-black eyes became human. His body slowly dissolved into countless blank pages carried upward by a warm wind. The living book closed itself. Its terrifying title vanished forever. Only one word remained on its cover. Hope. The final chapter had been written. But as the last page turned, a distant bell echoed through the darkness. One final story had yet to be told. Chapter 6. The last story never ends. Golden light flooded the final chapter chamber as the living book slowly closed its ancient pages. The screams that had echoed through the archive for centuries faded into silence, replaced by a gentle wind, carrying millions of glowing fragments into the endless sky above. Nathan stood alone beside the great wooden desk, the silver fountain pen still resting in his trembling hand. Around him, the floating manuscripts dissolved into countless stars, each representing a soul that had finally been freed from the prison of forgotten nightmares. The camera of truth stopped glowing. For the first time since entering Ashcroft Manor, complete silence surrounded him. Then, the silence broke. A single page drifted down from the darkness above. Nathan caught it before it touched the floor. The page was blank. Slowly, black ink began spreading across its surface. Every ending creates another beginning. The chamber trembled. A deep crack echoed beneath his feet. Nathan looked toward the living book. Its cover still displayed only one word: hope. But another word slowly appeared beneath it. Remember. The room darkened once again. The warm golden light faded until only pale moonlight illuminated the chamber. A familiar voice echoed softly. "Nathan." He turned. Standing near the entrance was the librarian, no longer wearing the black coat. No glowing symbols, just an elderly man smiling peacefully. "You set them free." Nathan nodded. "Is it finally over?" The old man looked upward. "No story truly ends. It simply finds another reader." Before Nathan could respond, the chamber began disappearing around them. The desk faded. The floating stars vanished. The endless walls dissolved into white mist. Nathan suddenly found himself standing once again inside the entrance hall of Ashcroft Manor. Morning sunlight streamed through the dusty windows. The mansion looked abandoned. Old furniture rested beneath thick layers of dust. Cobwebs hung from broken chandeliers. It was as though nothing supernatural had ever happened. Nathan slowly walked toward the front door. This time, it opened effortlessly. Fresh air filled his lungs. Birds sang outside. The terrible storm had disappeared. Police officers stood beyond the rusted gate. One of them hurried toward him. "Sir." Nathan blinked. The officer looked relieved. "We've been searching for you. You vanished 4 days ago." Nathan stared back at the mansion. 4 days? It had felt like only a few hours. The officer handed him a backpack recovered from inside the house. Everything remained inside. His notebook, his flashlight, his recorder, his camera. Nathan carefully opened the recorder. Only one recording existed. He pressed play instead of his own voice. The recording contained hundreds of whispered voices speaking together. "Thank you." The recording ended. Nathan never told anyone what had happened inside Ashcroft Manor. No one would have believed him anyway. Months passed. He returned home. He never wrote another horror novel. Instead, he spent years writing stories about courage, hope, sacrifice, and the strength of memory. Readers around the world loved them. Many claimed his books made them feel less afraid of the dark. Nathan simply smiled, only he understood why. One rainy evening, nearly 20 years later, a package arrived at his front door. No return address. Inside rested a single leather-bound book. Its cover had no title, no author, only a silver symbol matching the one carved into the doors beneath the archive. His hands trembled as he opened it. The first page contained a dedication for the final author. The second page was blank. Then fresh black ink slowly appeared. Every generation needs someone to guard the stories. Nathan immediately closed the book. The lights inside his house flickered. His old camera of truth, locked away for decades inside a wooden chest, suddenly flashed by itself. Click. Nathan slowly turned toward the window. Outside, rain poured across the empty street. At the far end of the road stood a child wearing a long black coat. The boy smiled. In his hands, he carried an old leather notebook. He raised one hand in a silent wave, then disappeared into the falling rain. Nathan understood at last. The archive had never chosen him to destroy horror. It had chosen him to protect the balance between fear and hope. Some stories deserve to be remembered. Others deserve to remain locked away forever. He carried the mysterious book back to his study and placed it inside a steel safe beside the camera of truth. He never opened either object again. Years later, after Nathan's peaceful death, workers clearing out his old house discovered the safe. Inside, they found only dust. The camera had vanished. The book was gone. Resting in their place was a single handwritten page. No one ever discovered who wrote it. It contained only one chilling sentence. "Welcome to the home of original horror stories. Your chapter begins now." Some people believe horror stories are created by imagination. Others believe they are inspired by forgotten places. But somewhere beyond the pages of every terrifying tale, beyond every haunted house, cursed object, and shadow lurking in the darkness, the archive still waits. And whenever someone dares to write a story that has never been told before, a blank page quietly turns by itself.